Today, we're diving into the worst Pokemon introduced in each generation, as a sort of catharsis for all that Game Freak's put us through. And of course, we're sticking with final stage Pokemon. So our choices are those that are really so bad that they just have no usage or viability whatsoever, no matter what you try to do and where you try to do it. Of course, there's usually more than one Pokemon that could be considered for this kind of thing, so we're including 2 additional contenders for each generation. Now, without further ado, let's kick things off, or punch things off rather, with Hitmonchan in Gen 1. Hitmonchan is the worst fighting type in the generation where fighting is the worst type in the game. This is not the end-all be-all, of course, but it's a heck of a solid start. That said, its competition is stiff, in the form of those famously flawed early game bugs, Butterfree and Beedrill. Themselves no slouches in the department of bad, exploitable typing, and appalling poor stats, leaving them unable to leave any sort of impact on the game. Hitmonchan's got base 105 attack, which is actually quite good, and is faster than both of them, beating out Beedrill by 1 point. So how could it be Hitmonchan? Or just as valid as a question, how could it not be either of the bugs? Well, right off the bat, Butterfree has access to Sleep Powder, and Sleep is an especially powerful status in Gen 1, lasting as many as 6 turns and preventing the opponent from moving when they wake up. It's frighteningly close to a free KO, and with a perfectly workable base 70 speed stat, Butterfree will be able to get it off. It can also spread that other massively powerful status, Paralysis, through Stun Spore. This is enough to make up for the fact that it's not doing any real damage on its own, though at least it can pull off some psychic special drops. Okay, but is it not clearly Beedrill then? Well, Beedrill actually has the tools to potentially finish the game off against a very, very weakened team, mind you, but with Swords Dance boosted Hyper Beam at its disposal, and potentially even agility, it's got more to work with than Hitmonchan. It's also got much better stab because its Twin Needle, weak though it is, actually strikes the best type in the game, Psychic, for super effective damage. Hitmonchan's stab, on the other hand, thuds into said type, and pretty much everything else for that matter, even when hitting neutrally. Sure, it hits normal and rocks super effectively, but its stab move is the pathetic 80 base power, 80% accurate, 25% recoil-inducing submission. It's probably going to miss or have its recoil be more impactful in helping your opponent KO you way before it's going to leave any significant mark on the opponent's team, especially since it has no move pool to speak of. What really makes Hitmonchan dreadful though is that it is ridiculously frail. With base 50 HP and a whopping 35 special, it makes Beedrill look like Chansey in comparison. Hitmonchan gets rolled by every special attack in the game, and its comparatively enormous base 79 defense still isn't very good with that paltry HP stat. And as far as getting destroyed by everything and doing no damage to anything, Hitmonchan's the best. Now for the second generation pick with Ledion. This one's a no-doubter, and that's especially impressive considering some of Gen 2's lovely newcomers, but none can compare to Ledion's almost impressively bereft array of nothingness. The one exception is Unknown, which is of course worse, but in our opinion, it doesn't even qualify as an actual Pokemon for the purposes of this list, seeing as it can't even learn 4 moves to fill its moveset with. So we're going with Ledion, which actually seems to hit the minimum threshold for having ostensibly been designed for actual competitive play. It can baton pass agility, and it has dual screen, so that's a pretty neat set, if not for the fact that Ledion's horrendous, weakness-riddled typing goes along with the physical bulk lower than Apom's, and even its one genuinely good stat, base 110 special defense, is undercut by non-existent HP. Its base 85 speed is also quite good, but functionally useless, seeing as Ledion can't do anything to anything, all while getting thrashed by everything even more than Gen 1 Hitmonchan on account of all the extra weaknesses Ledion's got tacked onto its so-called bulk. The two also go together with their sharing of a base 35 stat. Too bad for Ledion, it gets a base 35 attack when it's known for using the move Comet Punch, and its move pool is rifled with punching moves, and it would even get Iron Fist as an ability in Gen 5 as some sort of cosmic mockery. Not that you have to get past Gen 2 for that, seeing as it lacks even the ability to pass Swords Dance that it would have in Gen 3 and on. That alone would have rocked it past Apom for worse than game status, but instead Apom's mono-normal stab, fighting weakness only Curse Rest Talk set is chilling as pretty much Snorlax tier, next to Ledion's stunner of a do-nothing toolkit. Remind me again why Ledion didn't get a Mega? Then again, you could say that for most Pokemon on this list, such as the Gen 3 pick Delcatty. Now here we've got a close race again. Delcatty's greatest achievement may not have been competitive, but instead have been looking fierce in the 3D Pokemon game. While the confidence with which it shrugged off a hit may be inspiring, and may have fooled you into thinking it was a tough opponent when facing Pokemon Coliseum Cypher admin Venus, the reality is that Delcatty's only serving losses and not to its opponent. That said, the other contenders sure have a strong claim. At first glance, glance, Dustox appears to be your typical early game bug, even worse than his cousin Beautifly, since the latter actually has a decent attacking stat and is immune to Earthquake and Spikes, qualities Dustox impressively lacks. You've also got Mightyena, which after the initial awe of seeing either Maxie or Archie lead off with it and intimidate you wears off, Mightyena feels like a not fully realized Pokemon whose final stage was left unfinished, thus leaving Mightyena out to dry. It doesn't have any good stats, even its best one, Attack, is quite low, and in Gen 3, it lacks physical stat being a Dark type. However, when you consider them against Delcatty, these two look like titans of competitive dominance. Dustox has what can be considered, under the circumstances, a real special defense stat, and has some good utility moves. Moonlight's healing, Sludge Bomb is an actually worthwhile stab move, and has a 30% poison rate, and it can even phase around some Spikes damage with Whirlwind. Meanwhile, the attack boosting Howl, and the status clearing Heal Bell, alongside the general excellence of Intimidate, Mightyena can actually leverage some use, both offensively and defensively, maybe even on the same set. Plus, incomplete though its stat spread may seem, next to Delcatty, it's rocking some serious third stage numbers, which means the Heal Bell that Delcatty also has winds up useless when it can't actually take any hits so as to safely pull it off, nor does its Wish or its Thunder Wave or even its Calm Mind baton passing. Delcatty is certainly not lacking in impactful moves, and it's even got Ice Beam in its coverage arsenal, but it's brandishing them, if it can even be called that, from non-existent stats, a largely useless ability, and Mononormal's distinct lack of resistances. On the bright side, Delcatty's pre-evolution Skitty is amazing in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, so there's that. Now onto the gen with the best Mystery Dungeon game, the fourth, with Kricketune. Gen 4's got no shortage of Pokemon shoving and scrambling in this race to the bottom. Kricketune may have won, yet something like Wormadam could have just as easily been here, but it was deemed too viable for having access to Stealth Rock. That said, seeing as Bibarel is such an icon of uselessness, on par with Ledion itself, it may come as a surprise to not see it here in all its bland, ineffective non-glory. However, the fact that it has an actually synergistic stab combination alongside two excellent abilities in Simple and Unaware means that, while it falls far short of those abilities' potential, it still has something it can aspire to, and this means even such a lowly beaver can still look down on the pair of bugs below it. Mothim, Wormadam's cousin, also had a shot, simply because it has a terrible case of We Have Yanmega at Home, introduced in the same generation as this apex predator of bug flying type. Mothim is dust in Yanmega's hard-beating wings, unable to bypass its awful typing that just got so much worse with the introduction of Stealth Rock, the way the latter did with its auspicious amalgamation of attributes. However, you've got to hand this one to Kricketune. It may only pack a standard Stealth Rock weakness instead of a doubled one, but it worked overtime to make Mothim look extra good. Just like Mightyena, it has a strange, almost uncanny feeling of missing a third stage evolution. So low are its stats, but Mightyena has at least something it can work with, or even a couple of somethings. Kricketune, on the other hand, had what technically qualified as an attack stat, and other stats so low it may as well not have existed. Meanwhile, afflicted with the perils of Monobug's uselessness offensively and especially defensively, ensuring that even if it had an actual move pool, it wouldn't have amounted to anything. Kricketune's greatest strength is in the musicality of its design, but the world's smallest violin plays for its competitive viability. Now that we're done bugging out over Kricketune's sad song, we're moving our watch on to Generation 5 with Watchog. Watchog is unnerving the way it looks at you with those eyes. You would hope at least that this translates to some sort of competitive niche, but it pretty much just means hypnosis, which is cool, but its 60% accuracy is sub-focus blast tier, so you've got to have something else you can do. Sadly, outside of hypnosis, Watchog otherwise has a bad case of generic normal type disorder. It's not the worst in this regard, as its move pool is, well, not great, but Thunder Wave and Knockoff are amazing moves. Maybe throw the health having Super Fang into the mix and you've got something? Anything? Nope. The Pokemon that coast with pure utility moves generally have other traits that make them worthwhile. As ruinous as T-Wave can be, it alone cannot make up for Watchog's complete and utter lack of stats and resistances. Maybe if it has some sort of ability it can actually use. It's not that Analytic is a bad ability, very far from it, but it's not suited to Watchog's non-existent power, bulk, or inability to force anything to switch out. Well, what of its competitors Heatmor and Emolga? Heatmor already comes out on top, no question about it, for having both actual stab and attacking stats, as well as a fitting move pool and even an ability in Flash Fire. Emolga at least makes it close. It is itself almost devoid of anything useful to do, unable to either deal or withstand damage, but it does have much more useful typing, brandishing the same electric flying as Zapdos, which it may as well be relative to Watchog's complete non-entity. It's got actual resist and immunities, including even one to electric thanks to Motor Drive, and has more impactful utility with moves like Taunt and U-Turn, which were not given to the woebegone Watchog for whatever reason. Not that it would have made a difference in the end result, but it's the principle of the thing. Now, while it's not the worst, Emolga's close call here does bring to mind the Pika clones, which brings us to the choice for Generation 6 with Dedenne. Den. In Generation 7, Tapu Koko showed the world the vast offensive-defensive utility of Electric Fairy typing. In the previous generation, the same typed Den was, one could say, less successful. It's actually got a good speed stat, the same as monsters like Landorus Incarnate and Thunderous Therian, and its special attack is, okay, it's bad, but it's not as desolate as its HP and defenses. But hey, Tapu Koko's special attack was hardly overwhelming in and of itself, and it wasn't exactly a tank either, so while the Den's not setting electric terrain, it can maybe leverage that typing into something? Not quite. The Cheek Pouch ability, which restores 33% after eating a berry, is a cool one, especially since the Den also learns Recycle to restore said berry, but this is the type of ability that makes a good Pokemon better, not one that rescues a bad Pokemon from the brink of unviable oblivion. And that is what the Den is, because it's not like it's got any real Earth Shakers in its move pool either. This is one of those gems where the race isn't particularly close. Furfrou is a bland normal type with a great ability, the defense doubling Fur Coat, which alongside serviceable special defense and a base speed stat 1 point ahead of the Den, makes it look like a choice bander extraordinaire, even though its base attack is actually 1 point lower than the Den's special attack, and its typing is much less useful. Actually being able to take a hit goes a long way. This isn't to say Furfrou is good. The best it's going to do for you is to note how similar its name is to Frou Frou Foxes in Midsummer Fires, an excellent song by the Cocteau Twins, but the fact that it doesn't collapse to everything it's faced with on the battlefield effectively makes it stronger too, since it gets to attack more. Then there's Meowstic, which is fortunate enough to actually have gotten a Mega and many other moves as well, because boy did it need it. It's like Game Freak said, hey, this thing's got the Prankster ability, Thunder Wave, and dual screens. That's all it needs, right? Can we go back to focusing on what we really care about, i.e. the subtle, terrifying design now? Apparently, they answered themselves with a resounding yes, because the only thing Meowstic really had going for it was a good base speed stat. Still, priority dual screens are something. They can even be pretty neat actually, and even if Meowstic were to go the actual attacking route, it's got Deden beat in power and bulk despite not having that much of either. Really, Deden's greatest impact is being that Vine-inspired meme. Remember Vine? For those who don't, it was TikTok before that existed. Somehow Deden has become a relic of time gone by. Let's not linger on such heavy thoughts, and instead move on to our 7th generation pick, whose design certainly doesn't evoke any ideas with Gumshoos. Gumshoos is the best Pokemon there ever was, folks. Really just tremendous. It's so good, it's actually the best at being the worst. You wouldn't think this is even possible, but it's true. All 3 Gen 7 Pokemon are actually overflowing with personality. You can see Gumshoos busting out to YMCA, Oranguru appears to have some serious spirituality going on, and Toucannon feels in the best way like the kind of Pokemon Mirror B would have. We've had some unfortunately bland Pokemon on this list previously, but certainly not here. These 3 are anything but dull, though all of them are normal types. They've all got a distinct set of attributes, starting with even what threatens to be the blandest of all, the mono-normal Gumshoos. You've never seen a normal type like this with not 1, not 2, but 3 terms of abilities. Stakeout punishes you for switching in by doubling its attacking stat, and it's already got a base 110 attack stat. Okay, any generation would be proud to have this, but that's not even all. It's also got Strong Jaw, perhaps the strongest, and receives a 50% boost to key coverage moves like Crunch and Fire Fang, assuring a wide array of super effective hits against those pesky walls. Finally, it's got the ability Adaptability, which isn't just an impressive series of words, but a powerful boost to its normal stat. Sounds pretty sweet. How is this going to be the worst? Well, while Gumshoos is trying to solve everything through brute force, Oranguru is astral projecting to another dimension, aka using Trick Room, bringing its impact beyond its own damage and supporting its teammates. It doesn't hit as hard, but it's got Nasty Plot, Psychic stat that has actual super effective targets, and is actually a very good hit taker, with great HP and special defense alongside good defense, which improves its support and hit taking capabilities alike. Meanwhile, Toucannon defies the limitations of the generic normal flying type with an excellent attack stat and a deceptively wide move pool, including Knockoff, Skill Link supported Bullet Seed, and even Overheat. It can even threaten burns on users of contact moves with its signature Beak Blast. It also helps that its speed and bulk, while actually quite low, still manage to leave Gumshoos in the dust. Yep, all that power Gumshoos claims to offer winds up being no more than hot air considering how slow and fragile it is, to say nothing of the power itself, for all its advantages still not being especially impressive. It's the same mono-normal shtick we've seen so many times before. It's about time to move on to the next generation with Greedent. Sword and Shield's triumvirate of anti-triumph are a far cry from the low stat struggles of the early generations. All 3 of these Pokemon have 3 stats ranging from good to excellent. Greedent's got an amazing base 120 HP stat alongside good base 95 defense and usable base 75 special defense, making it quite a hit taker. It's much bulkier physically than Garchomp for instance, and it's also got base 95 attack. This offers some promise, especially with Belly Drum and the Cheek Pouch ability, synergizing beautifully with Citrus Berry. Well, what of the others? Take a look at Stone Joiner. It's got phenomenal physical bulk between great HP and incredible defense, as well as excellent attack alongside a great attacking move pool. And just when you think it's going to be let down by being slow, you see it even has perfectly workable base 70 speed. Of course, it's a contender for this slot because its special defense is among the very worst in the game, making it all too easy to beat in the grand scheme of things, so long as you had any special attack. But as far as being able to muster a niche, it's much more threatening and immediate than the other two. That said, Orbeetle's still enough to like to keep it from that lowest slot. It has base 110 defense and 120 special defense. Sure, it doesn't get the most of them thanks to its 60 HP, but don't be fooled because unlike most other full bulky Pokemon, it's also got a perfectly solid base 90 speed. It's not trying to wall, it just needs to take a hit or two. And those defenses not only do the job, they have an easier time doing the job because of the speed. It can also potentially pull off a whale of a dangerous snowball boosting set with agility, iron defense, and weakness policy. It gains a multitude of boosts with which to unleash its stab stored power, while dark and steel types are dispatched with the iron defense boosted body press that also makes it so difficult to break on the physical side. Is it too idealistic to work in practice? Yeah, but compared to Greedent, it's all reliable. Greedent's base 20 speed makes Snorlax and the Slow Twins look zippy, to say nothing of the usual woes of normal typing. It's still not that bulky, at least not with next to no resist to work with, and that means it's just not worth the effort of trying to make its speed work for you on Trick Room, especially with its uninspiring normal stab, even at +6. Body Slam isn't exactly the all-destroyer it needs to be. Man, normal types have it rough, as if being normal type wasn't enough. But don't worry, for our 9th generation pick, we've got a Pokemon from one of the best types in the game, introducing Wugtrio. Not since Ledion has there been a Pokemon so staggeringly, peerlessly terrible, and Wugtrio even shares a base 35 stat with it and Machamp. In this case, it's HP, but even Ledion could at least baton pass something. The worst thing about Wugtrio is how ridiculously pointless it feels. Who on earth is this strange water-type Dugtrio clone without the defining ability 4? It's very fast, yes, and it has a decent attack stat, but to what end? Stab, liquidation, and what else? Nothing. Even if it didn't have some sort of the worst bulk in the game, it'd be a complete non-entity of a Pokemon. Wugtrio is so completely useless, one genuinely wonders what inspired Game Freak to make it, especially since Dugtrio already had an Alolan form, which was also pointless, spectacularly so, and they basically just did the same thing again, except it's a water type now. There is nothing else that comes close in Generation 9, or any generation really. Even Ledion would be preferable. And thank you so much to our Platinum patrons. Thank you to Amphozenus, Alex Sable, Anthony Belval Renault, Daniel Isbeast, Corman, Eric Dissing, Funky, Glitcherton, Howl, Jack G, King Yabber, Nightfall, Megamon VGC, Mojo Gameslayer, Nurse Jake, One Penguin to Rule, Pretzel SP, Seagulls Incorporated, Sojiro Sakura, Spavoon, Gylaria, Soras and Croxon, Shiwei Miji, Stoneface Colin, Kiboflu, Wardeen, Zathor for their major support of our videos.